Hey guys, what's up? NullRage here, and today we're taking a look at some changes coming to Invisible Woman in our latest review. I'm gonna just treat this like any other skill preview. Not many of the animations have changed or anything like that. It's mostly just kind of damage tuning, but there's enough that's changed here and there that it's sort of like a brand new character. It's gonna look the same, but it's gonna play a lot better. So let's just go through it. First things first, we'll cover the synergies like we would in any video. They haven't changed. 25% or 2% energy damage at level 25, and level 50 gives you 2% deflect projectile chance. Alright, let's go ahead and hop into the powers. I don't believe there's any new costumes that'll be coming with this review. So, Dynamic Force, we've got Force Disc, about the same as it used to be. Dealing some energy damage with a boomerang type effect. Send it out, it comes back, it deals damage twice to each target. Or, well, each time it passes through a target, it deals damage. Now we've got something new. This Suffocate skill is new here. It's going to add an extra layer of damage, another dot to your damage rotation with Dynamic Force. It looks like Dynamic Force here is sort of like a damage over time tree. Static Force is more about direct single target, or, well, not single target, but direct damage, not dots. And then Invisibility sort of, it helps both, and we'll go over why when we cover the focus system with the Invisibility tree. Now we've got Storm of Spheres. Now this is great. Used to only be able to cast one of these, and I don't know if it had the slow or the vulnerability on it, but it's now like just you want to have this up on your targets at all times if you're doing the damage over time build. I think there's something equivalent over here for the direct damage build. Oh, I didn't show Suffocate. There it is. There it is. A little bit of a weird animation lag there. You know, it puts some bubbles over people's heads and causes them to not be able to breathe through those bubbles, so they take damage over time. It's pretty cool. I think she's used that kind of ability in the comics before, and just cutting off someone's air supply.
Because I said so.
Very dangerous. And now we've got Storm of Spheres. Energy damage twice per second, slow, vulnerability. Can maintain up to 2 areas at the same time. This is a big change from what it used to be. You used to only have one of these, and using the skill would cause the other one to go away. But now you can have up to 2 of these. So you've got a pretty big area of effect you can have taking damage here with 2 of these up. That's a huge area to be able to affect, or two completely different areas. If I wanted to do damage to these guys and do damage to those guys over there, I can do that. And that's pretty cool. Coupled again with Suffocate, you've got nice damage layering going on. Now we've got Cascading Force. Most of the change to this is the slow mechanic on it. It's got some initial knockback, and then anything moving through it will be slowed. It's going to deal energy damage twice per second again. There you go. So on first hit, when you first hit an enemy with it, you're going to deal some knockback, and then as things are moving through it, they're going to move slower towards you. Pretty cool. We've got Bouncing Discs is next up. It's a basic, and it's gonna work. Man, I love these types of abilities. Cyclops has one. Rogue can steal Cyclops's ability. Daredevil has one, but it's not a basic. You know, anything that has this ricochet thing is really fun for me. There you go. And you can just use this all day long, affecting all the targets in an area. Bouncing back and forth. If there's only like 2 targets in an area, I'm not sure if it will bounce back and forth. Like if these weren't here, I'm not sure if it would just hit these 2 over and over again. I think it might just hit each target once. I'm not 100% sure on that. Now we've got Quantum Compression next up. Fully restore focus on initial activation. That is great, and I'll show you when we get to Invisibility why that is so good. But it's also going to deal some energy damage initially, and then you're going to be able to activate it up to, I want to say up to 4 more times to deal that explosion damage there. It's also going to reduce damage that you take for 8 seconds while you it gives you 4 stacks of a buff that reduces damage by 20%. Let me show you exactly how it works out, and it'll make a bit more sense than it does on paper. At least to me. Alright, so you got that initial hit, you pull things in, they get sucked in, and then you've got damage reduction going on. Now you can activate this up to 4 more times to deal explosion damage. But I usually like to just activate it and then use that damage reduction to like stand in whatever is damaging me. And, you know, like Power Cosmics rolling around the room. I just pop that damage thing, and I go to town with my other skills with this massive damage reduction up. And maybe in the last second, you know, it gets to 7 seconds through, and then I explode all of them, because it's gonna go away if I don't and just be wasted damage. But I like, you know, using that damage negation is the way I really like to use that skill. Now this skill, I don't know if it used to be over here. I feel like it used to be over here or somewhere else, but Crusher. Now it deals energy damage twice per second for 2 seconds. Used to it would deal damage to enemies as it rolled through them, and I'm not sure if it was a dot or if it was on, you know, like each time it hit an enemy, it dealt damage. But now it is a pure dot. What it does is when it rolls through an enemy, it applies a damage over time effect, and that damage over time effect can't be applied while it's still up. You know, you can maybe you just refresh it. I'm not sure exactly how all that works. But anyway, if your balls are around somebody, they're gonna take damage twice per second for 2 seconds. Now, the beauty of this skill in this change for the review is now on activation you summon 3 of them instead of 1. Now, it has changed a bit because it has a 12-second summon duration, a 30-second cooldown. Used to, it didn't have a 30-second cooldown. I believe it didn't have a cooldown at all, but it used focus to summon them too. So that would take away from using invisibility or secret orbs, which we'll cover later. So it was sort of hard to use Crusher well. Now, however, it's just another dot, and it stacks another damage layer with Suffocate and Storm of Spheres. Really nice. I love this skill and the way it's changed. Let me show you. There they are. And they just, the AI has been improved a lot. They kind of just take off and do their own thing. It's no longer quite so annoying when they, you know, they don't really follow well. They don't seek out new targets or anything like that. You know, they used to be like little lost puppies that would follow you around doing damage to anything they pass through, but not really seeking targets to pass through them. You know, they didn't know how to deal their damage, and now they do. So that's really cool. Again, stacking with that damage over time layering that I was talking about. You've got 3 layers of damage over time, and then you can also throw in a 4th there with cascading force or your basic, depending on, you know, what your spirit situation is. Now we move into invisibility. Now a lot of these skills are going to use the focus system. Focus builds over time, and some powers cost focus instead of spirit. Alright, first up we've got invisibility. I'm going to go ahead and keep these 2 skills, Cascading Force and Bouncing Discs, on the bar here in case we need them for things later. But invisibility removes crowd control effects. That's awesome. So it's your CC breaker. It also resets the cooldown of Resonating Wave, the next skill in the tree. We'll cover that in a minute. It's going to give you 6% move speed and restore spirit and health while you're invisible over the 3-second duration of the skill. Now, the beauty of this skill in this change, invisibility duration 3 seconds, stacks with previous activations. So you pop it once, and watch my focus bar while I do this. You pop it once, use up that 1 pip of focus, you're invisible for 3 seconds. Alright? And you can see here the speed at which it returns focus. It's not incredibly fast, but it's fast enough. It's a lot faster than it was. So it's a lot more usable. Now you can pop this up to three times. You've got 3 pips of focus here, so you can pop them all at once, and now you're invisible for 9 seconds. Not just 3 seconds, 9 seconds, which is pretty freaking cool. Especially because we talked about quantum compression earlier, when you use this to fully restore your focus on initial activation. Using this all together with the stacking 3-second duration of invisibility, the reset or fully restore focus on initial activation, we can now get 18 seconds of combat invisibility. That means even while I'm gonna go over here to the range dummy, I'm in combat. This guy knows where I am. He's shooting me. Not anymore. And now I can just stay here for 18 seconds. I might have missed it up. I might have gotten a little bit too quick with pressing these buttons. I'm not sure if I'll stay invisible for the full 18 seconds. Do make sure that your focus actually goes back to full before popping more invisibility stacks. Don't get so excited that you may be able to like pop them before they actually get restored or something. I'm not 100% sure there. Just make sure the bar fills back up before you start stacking again. Now we've got Resonating Wave. Now we saw on Invisibility that Invisibility will reset the cooldown of Resonating Wave. Resonating Wave is energy damage. It applies a weaken. If used while stealthed or invisible, it does 300% damage and restores 20 spirit, but also has an 8-second cooldown. But we saw that Invisibility will reset the cooldown of Resonating Wave. So here it is, not invisible. Ah, that lagged a bit. Huge AoE around you. Right. But if you're invisible when you use it, then you're going to have an 8-second cooldown here and deal 300% damage. But what you can do, sort of get around that, is pop 1 invisibility, hit, pop 1 invisibility, hit, pop 1 invisibility, hit. So you got 3 hits there with that Resonating Wave, because it resets that cooldown each time you use invisibility. Pretty nice play between these two skills. Now finally, or not finally, but next up we've got Invisible Combat here, which is her damage passive. Damage rating, crit damage, 10%, or crit hit rating, damage to enemies not targeting you, 10% damage for 10 seconds when you spend focus, max 3 stacks. Does that mean it lasts for 30 seconds? Or does it... Which way does it stack? This is hard to read for me because I don't know whether it stacks in intensity or duration. I imagine it stacks in intensity, since it's a 10-second thing instead of a 3-second thing. You know, if it just... Yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it stacks in intensity, not duration. So that can give you up to 30% increased damage when you spend focus. Pop all 3 of these at once, and you've got that extra 30% damage, as well as getting the bonus damage from enemies not targeting you, because if you're invisible, they're not targeting you. It's also giving you an active effect. You and your allies are concealed, become invisible for 5 seconds. Allies cannot be concealed again for 30 seconds. Concealed is sort of new. It's a new buff. It basically just means invisible, but they've turned it into a raid buff, the same as toughness or power or endurance or what have you, just to make it a little bit more readable and let you know that these buffs, they interact with other characters' concealed buffs, and I think she's got another one here too. Somewhere, yeah, Shield Dome, Protected. Protected is new too, and I think they're going to roll out these Concealed and Protected to other characters that have similar skills that either conceal a team, you know, make them all invisible, or add a protection layer two teams. Alright, next up we've got, well, let's see, do we do the, here we go. Alright, here's what the skill does when you activate it. You're going to go concealed, and you will conceal your entire team, not only in this area. Anybody like in your party, if they're on the screen, will get concealed. Or at least that's what I've experienced. Not 100% sure how. In fact, they don't even have to be in your party. I'm not sure how big the AoE is, but I've concealed people while running around in Midtown. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how big the AoE is. So next we've got Personal Force Field. It's looking like a defensive passive, but it's also going to have this, while toggled on, when out of combat, you become stealthed. Now, this allows her to do the thing that Invisible Woman does, where she's always invisible, unless, as long as she doesn't hit anything. And the best way to move through things without hitting them is the Levitating Disc right there. Yeah. So you can just move through things completely invisible. This is a great way to run terminals or anything like that, is to just run through, get to the boss, nothing can see you. You enter the place and just rush through, get to the boss, kill him, done. Really sort of makes her kind of an assassin. I know she's not really, or at least as far as I know, she's not really like that in the comics, not very assassin-esque, but she can definitely be one in this game. That's pretty cool. So we've got 12% block, chance to, and this is completely passive, 12% chance to negate incoming damage from block. We've got defense, we've got projectile deflection, regenerate health on hit, so a little bit of regen there, a little bit of life on hit. And then when you spend focus, create a field that absorbs damage equal to 4% of your maximum health within the next 10 seconds. Force field that absorbs. So you have a shield on you whenever you spend focus? Okay, that's cool. I like that. Applies a 4% max health shield every time that you spend focus. Okay. That's pretty cool. That's a new kind of effect that I haven't seen on skills before, so I had to make sure I was understanding it correctly. Automatically become invisible for 30 seconds when you drop below 30% health. That effect has a cooldown of 30 seconds. And when you spend focus, you and your allies gain toughness. Toughness is a great ability, giving you that defense and health. Very useful for any character that needs a bit of survivability, and because it's a group buff, if you're running with squishier characters, they will love you for applying that buff. Next up, we've got Secret Orbs. Activating this power does not break stealth. It restores 20 spirit, and summons 10 projectile orbs, you'll see it in a minute, that deal energy damage. Each one deals that much energy damage. Each one does not restore 20 spirit. You only restore 20 spirit regardless of how many orbs there are. This skill uses focus. So that same thing we were doing with invisibility. Use secret orbs to do that. Now notice these secret orbs are AoE explosions. The AoE is pretty huge on them, which is nice. It's absolutely great. I'm not sure if they used to be AoE, if they've always been AoE, but they're definitely AoE now. You can see it right there. Huge AoE too. Very cool, very cool. Again, it does use focus, and I find that I'm usually better off just using invisibility to spend my focus. You know, 18 seconds of combat invis, I can't trade that for anything, man. So I don't really use secret orbs too much, but if you wanted to play a less invisible, more telekinetic Invisible Woman, then you could use secret orbs in that build. Next up, we've got Crashing Wave Style. Using techniques taught to you by Iron Fist. I love this little nod to Iron Fist, and when he comes into the game, it's going to be so cool. Maybe doing a duo with these two, Iron Fist and Sue Storm. Perform shield projecting punches that obliterate an enemy, knocking them down with every third strike. Energy damage, and this one used to do some extra bonus damage on the third hit. That effect has been taken off, and instead it just knocks them down, and the extra damage effect is going to come from using invisibility. Again, another reason to use invisibility, maybe over secret orbs. This is sort of your go-to single target spirit spender. And a lot of characters have this type of ability. You know, use your spirit to deal as much, you know, the most damage you can to one target. It's a boss killer. So you've got energy damage and then 50% for 9 seconds after using invisibility. Let's pull this out on the bar. There you go. The animations have been sort of improved. Oh, lots of spirit. It costs a lot of spirit. So if you're going to use this, I've actually found a build that doesn't use either basic attack and instead uses Crashing Wave style, but you have to pump a lot of gear into things like this and this Hand and Nimrod as well. Things that restore your spirit. I think there's even a... No, I don't have the River of Soul, but it does have quite a few energy points in the build as well to reduce the cost, so that I can just use those few Spirit Return artifacts there. Let's see. Now it does have that 50% damage after invisibility as well. So when you use invisibility, not the invisibility gained from personal force field. So let's go ahead and turn that off. There we go, that's off. That invisibility is not the invisibility skill, which is what it's referring to. But you'll gain that 50% damage for 9 seconds to this skill. Or this skill will deal 50% extra damage after using invisibility. There you go. Something went weird with the animations. Yeah, something's... There it goes. That was strange. That was strange. Get some spirit back. This is all test center, so bugs will happen from time to time. So if I wanted to stack all 3 of those invisibilities, now I got that 9 seconds of combat invis and 9 seconds of the 50% buff in damage to this skill. I can just, for 9 seconds, go to town, dealing bunches of damage with Crashing Wave style. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Alright, next up we've got Shield Blitz. You've seen me using it a little bit, probably. It's your basic dash through attack, deals some energy damage as you pass through them. The animation has been sped up a lot. I'm out of spirit. Oh, spirit. Why you do this? But the animation is a lot faster than it used to be. You'll be able to move a lot better on her. Now we've got Crushing Force. Let me just get all these on the bar here. Done with all that other stuff. Crushing Force, I like to call it dropping plates. I love this, man. Energy damage, it's 50%. Okay, damage plus 50% against enemies affected by Storm of Spears or Force Pillar. This is what I was talking about with the damage over time ability. You can use this skill in either build. If you want to do dots with Storm of Spears, then you can use Crushing Force, no problem. Or you can use Force Pillar here to apply a vulnerability and a damage over time and all that stuff. We'll talk about that in a second when we get to Force Pillar. But let's have a look at Crushing Force, aka dropping plates. I love that. It's a very cool animation for this skill. And notice it deals double damage to enemies in the center of the target area. So if I hit this dude, he takes double damage. All these things on the edge, they take the regularly listed damage. So your single target is going to take that extra damage, and then everything around will get damaged as well. Pretty cool. Now we've got Levitating Disc. It's your basic travel power with a little bit of flight to it, you know. I love the animations though. They're very well done. Great. Can we get my name out of the way? There we go. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, by the way, this is the, I haven't talked about the costume I'm wearing. This is the Future Foundation costume for Sue Storm. This is her default. I'm sure most of y'all know that already. The blue Fantastic Four uniform. And this was Future Foundation. Alright. Now we've got Shield Dome. It's going to apply some attack speed, or some attack and move slow here. Anything in the area is going to be slowed. And allies become protected, shielding them from 25% of incoming damage and healing 5% of their maximum health per second. This is an incredibly powerful defensive boost you can pop whenever, let's say you're raiding and you get one of the green meteors and your whole team is really low on HP for whatever reason. Maybe it's a red raid or something. You throw down one of these and you're able to absorb a bit of that damage from that green meteor and not die, hopefully. There you go. And allies cannot be protected again for 30 seconds. It does have that 30-second duration, but it also has a 30-second cooldown, so it's not like you're going to be using it too much. But when other characters start using this, you'll have to coordinate to make sure you're not overlapping your skills. That would be bad. Because if you can only be protected once every 30 seconds, then you don't want to use this skill when people are not available to be protected, when they have that 30-second thing going on them. Alright, it's got a 5-second duration, and the beauty of this skill, Shield Dome, it probably says something about it in the flavor text up there, but in addition to slowing enemies' movements and attacks, it actually slows projectiles as well. Where is it at? 3? Okay. Alright, come here, come here. If I pop this down, notice his projectiles are all slowed. Very cool. It's great when you throw that down on a man-ape spear or something and have just the perfect amount of time to get out of the way. Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Alright. Next up we've got Force Pillar, Energy Image, Vulnerability. Notice this vulnerability application here is different from regular vulnerability. Alright? Storm of Spheres here applies a 10% damage, your typical vulnerability. Enemies take 10% damage. This one has a vulnerability thing that is different from normal vulnerability. What it does is it causes enemies to take 20% extra damage from 2 skills in your kit: Crushing Force, aka drop-in plates, or Cascading Force. Okay, so 2 abilities here that you can use with Force Pillar. And again, Crushing Force, remember, it does 50% damage against enemies affected by Storm Spheres or Force Pillar, which coupled together, I'm not exactly sure how that maths out, if it applies one and then applies the other, or if it just stacks together to be, what, 70% extra damage on the base damage of Crushing Force? Probably that latter one. It's probably additive instead of multiplicative. So I'm going to throw down some drop-in plates. Now if I hit them with Force Pillar, then you've got a lot more damage to these targets going on. Those 2 skills can be incredibly good. And notice the vulnerability, you can see it in the red. Anytime they've got this red and swirlies around them, then they've got that vulnerability application on them. One thing to keep in mind about this type of vulnerability, though, is it's not this type of vulnerability. Now, does that mean you can stack this skill, this vulnerability, with regular vulnerability, giving you another 10%, giving you the typical enemies take 10% damage? Because there's a way in the Omega system that you can get some vulnerability right there. You can apply vulnerable to enemy targets, which makes them take 10% extra damage, which could stack again, giving you 80% extra damage to Crushing Force. Could be really cool. Next up, we've got Wall of Force. Now, I'm not sure if the animations have been, or if everything's been finalized with the skill. It is Test Center, so some things aren't final. They sort of modeled this skill after Iceman's new Ice Wall. I believe, this may be new. I don't know if she used to have something like this, but anyway, stops enemy projectiles, blocks enemy pathing, has 100% of your health and defense, has an area duration of 6 seconds and a cooldown of 6 seconds as well. You can see with points put into the skill, the health and defense of the wall increases. Alright, go over here. First let's see the animation here. Oh, it's F. Gotcha. Alright, so it's still named Ice Wall, but you can see the invisibility pillars here that are the invisible wall, or wall of force. Now, it will block projectiles, like that one. And then only take... I think this thing needs like twice as much health as it has. That's just my personal opinion. So we'll see what it actually has, but it dying in 3 hits from that dude is kind of depressing. Again, though, I'm not wearing any gear, so there's that. If you have a little bit of gear, the more health and defense you have, the more health and defense the skill's gonna have. And you know, your typical plus skills usually run it up to somewhere around 15 anyway, even with only 1 point put in the skill. So in any build, you can probably make use of this skill and not feel that it's too underpowered. I'll have to play around with it to know for sure. Next up, we've got Steroid Typhoon. Her ultimate. It's going to deal energy damage twice per second. It's going to apply a slow, and you and your allies are unbreakable, becoming immune to crowd control and negating 40% of incoming damage. It also doubles your focus regen. This is massive. This is huge. This is amazing. So while that ult is going on, remember we talked about the 18-second combat invisibility going on here between quantum compression and invisibility. Now what you can do is pop that invisibility, pop twice, then pop quantum compression, pop 3 times, invisibility 3 times, quantum compression, invisibility 3 more times, Steroid Typhoon, and then you've got that regen coming back, so you're probably going to be able to pop more invisibility before you ever run out of that 18-second combat invisibility. So keep that combination in mind. Let's have a look at Steroid Typhoon.
I got this!
Very cool animation. And then a big bubble. And let me, if you wanted to just throw out these two during the duration, you got a lot of orbs that you can throw out every so often. A lot of secret orbs. So that is Invisible Woman. Altogether, I think her new kit is going to be a lot better than her old kit. There's still a little tweaks here and there that can be made, maybe. It seems like the latest iteration of Test Center, you know, She-Hulk, Invisible Woman, and Cosmic Midtown has sort of... It hasn't really received the attention to detail that I like to see during these patches, and a lot of that actually has to do with what's going on live here recently. The Omega event, the massive Omega boosts and Cosmic boosts, the Big 10 event. I mean, everybody's been playing this. The regular testers, which are always on Test Center trying things out, most of them have been very torn this week, myself included, because of the massive boosts that are on live. So we're like, well, we could test out all this new stuff, but there's so much going on the live servers that, you know, we've just been torn, and probably people haven't been able to put in as much attention to detail in this patch as I'd like to see, but hopefully that doesn't cause too many problems. We'll see. Alright, Cosmic Midtown's up next in the next video. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Invisible Woman's changes. I'll see you there. Until then, take it easy. Have a good one. Peace.